Welcome back. I am Angel Reyes, and I built Subthesis, the platform that powers the workflow scaffold layer of this course. In video 1, you got the operating system, what a dissertation actually is in 2026, what AI changes about the means, and what it does not change about the bar. You walked out with the right mindset. Now you need the instrument. That is what this video is. 45 minutes from now, you will have a populated tool stack table on paper. You will have 10 tools clustered by the 5 jobs they actually do, plus one workflow scaffold platform that sits in its own category. You will know which ones are free, which ones your institution probably already pays for, which ones are worth a monthly subscription, and which ones to skip entirely. By the end of this week, you will have logged in to every tool you commit to, and you will have bookmarked the Subthesis Research Assistant at subthesis.com. That is the deliverable. Now, 2 things to set expectations. First, this is not a hype tour. I am not going to tell you that AI is going to write your dissertation. It will not. The bar from video 1 still applies. Second, this is not exhaustive. There are a lot of tools that touch the doctoral workflow. We are picking 10 plus 1 because that is the smallest stack that covers almost everything you actually do. Anything more is friction. Anything less is missing capability. The framing for the whole video is process, not census. The questions to ask, the order of operations, the composition rule. Let me show you what the difference looks like when a candidate has the stack and one who does not. You met a third-year PhD candidate in video 1, the one who used Elicit and her institutional Claude and the Subthesis methodology selector to compress 6 hours of work into 11 minutes. Today is 2 days later. Same desk, same coffee, different task. She needs 30 relevant peer-reviewed papers on a niche topic, say, the use of digital twin models in heart failure readmission prediction. She also has a labmate, 2 desks down, with the same task. She opens a small set of tabs that fit the job. One tool for structured question-to-paper list workflow, one for claim-level evidence aggregation, one for the broad cited sweep, one to find the citation cluster around the first useful hit. Less than half an hour later, she has a clean list, each paper tagged with its design, its sample size, and its key finding. The labmate opens Google Scholar and starts scrolling. Hours later, they have a partial list, several papers off topic, and they are tired. The labmate is not less smart than the candidate. The labmate is not slower at reading. The labmate does not have the stack. That is what this video is going to give you. Now here is the part that matters. The stack is not about hoarding tools. She uses a handful of tools for that lit search, but she does not have 40 browser tabs open. She has the right tools for that job. Job to tool matching is the entire game. The way to decide is to start from the job, not from the brand. Most doctoral students I work with are stuck not because they lack tools, but because they are using one tool, usually whatever chat LLM they signed up for first, for every job. That is like using a kitchen knife to drive screws. It will sort of work for a while, and then it will fail badly. Your next move is to learn how to think about jobs, so the tool choice falls out of the job choice rather than the other way around. Let me show you the jobs. Here is the mental model. Stop thinking about tools by brand. Start thinking about them by job. There are 5 jobs across the doctoral workflow. Search. Finding work that already exists in your field. The lit review job. Read. Getting structure out of dense documents, whether one PDF or a corpus of 300. Think. Synthesis, critique, hypothesis generation, stress testing your own argument. Write, drafting, revising, polishing prose. Organize, keeping references straight, mapping the knowledge graph of your field, holding project state across months. Every tool you will look at this week maps to one of those 5 jobs. Some tools span 2 jobs. None of them does all 5 well, despite the marketing. Now there is a second axis on top of the 5 jobs, and this is the one most people miss. There are 2 layers in a healthy stack. Layer 1 is what I call generative chat. Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and their institutional cousins. These are open-ended conversational partners. You tell them what you need, they generate. Layer 2 is structured scaffolds. Purpose-built forms, matrices, frameworks where the tool already knows what fields the answer needs. A finer plus Pico research question builder. A literature review matrix with columns pre-named. A statistical method selector. The 2 layers compose. The scaffold tells you what shape the answer should take. The chat LLM helps you fill the shape with content. We will come back to this composition rule because it is the single biggest unlock in this video. Let me make the composition rule concrete because it will save you weeks across your dissertation. Suppose you are stuck on your research question. You open Claude and you say, "Help me sharpen my research question." Claude will give you a beautiful, well-written paragraph that sounds good and that is, structurally, useless. It might not name a population. It might not name a comparator. It might be unmeasurable. That is layer 1 output without layer 2 shape. Now run it the other direction. You open a subthesis research question builder that walks you through finer and Pico. Feasible, interesting, novel, ethical, relevant. Then population, intervention, comparator, outcome, time frame. You fill the fields, but you fill them with your own first draft language. The form is fine, the prose is rough. That is layer 2 shape without layer 1 fill. Now compose them. You let the scaffold name the fields. You let the chat LLM help you draft and stress test the language inside each field. You return the refined fill to the scaffold for the next iteration. You end with a research question that is both structurally complete and rhetorically sharp. That is the move. Layer 1 fills, layer 2 shapes. Neither alone is enough. Most students live in layer 1 with ChatGPT and wonder why their work feels mushy. The fix is not better prompts. The fix is adding layer 2. Hold on to that. We will return to it in beat 7. First, let us walk the layer 1 tools, because that is where everyone starts. Before we name a single consumer tool, I want you to do step 0. Step 0 is check your institution. Your next move is not to open ChatGPT. Your next move is to find out whether your university has already given you a walled garden LLM instance. A growing number of Research One universities do. The naming varies. Sometimes a branded internal chat, sometimes a campus deployment of a commercial product under an institutional contract, sometimes a research computing portal. The way to decide whether you have one is simple. Open a new tab. Search your university name plus AI or LLM or the name of the chat product you have heard of. Look for a page hosted on your university's own domain that asks you to sign in with your institutional credentials. If that page exists, that is your step 0 tool. If it does not, your institution has not deployed one yet and you skip to the consumer tier. Why does step 0 matter? 3 reasons. 1. It is free to you. You probably do not need to pay for a consumer subscription if your institution gave you a license to something equivalent. The way to decide is to try the institutional tool first and only add the consumer tool when you hit a capability the institutional one cannot give you. 2. It is policy aligned. The institution has negotiated the terms of service, the business associate agreement, the FERPA posture. Anything you put into the institutional tool is governed by an agreement the institution already signed. That changes what data you can put in. 3. It is the default for sensitive work. Anytime you are touching FERPA-protected student data, anytime you are touching protected health information, anytime you are working with pre-publication results you do not want a vendor training on, the institutional tool is your default. The consumer tool is for non-sensitive ideation only. Find your Step 0 tool this week. Bookmark it. That is your first stack entry, and every subsequent choice composes on top of it. Now the honest part, because I am not going to sell you institutional tools without telling you what they actually do. There is a capability gap, and you need to know it before you commit. Most institutional walled garden deployments run a model that is some distance behind the consumer frontier. The institution has good reasons. They want a model with a contract, with a security review, with a known training data posture. The consequence is that the institutional tool may be a step behind whatever is currently making headlines on the consumer side. Multimodal features, image upload, file analysis, voice, are often disabled by the institution to manage risk. Context windows are sometimes trimmed for the same reason. Retention is usually short by design, which means the persistent memory workflows you might build on the consumer side will not always survive in the institutional side. And here is the pattern to know. Even at institutions that provide an AI tool, a meaningful share of researchers still use non-institutional AI for actual research work. Provisioning is not the same as usage. So here is the routing rule, and this is process, not data. The way to decide